Greetings, everyone. Steve, Paracords of Kindness. How are you doing today? Hopefully your weaving's been happy. Okay, what I have for you today is one that I've gotten a lot of requests on. This is, I've taken two concepts and added and kind of melded them together. Many of you are familiar with a fishtail belly or a belly fishtail. This one is done with a Cobra Inlay, meaning it's not stitched afterwards, but it's interwoven while you're doing the bracelet. And I'm calling this one a Fishbelly. Okay, now I'll show you two that I've done. Here's one in my quote-unquote signature colors that I love so much: olive drab, maroon, and gold. Right? And I put it on a maroon buckle. And the one we'll be working on today is this one. Now, in this video, I'm not going to show how to do the side stitching. I'm going to simply show how to do the bracelet and the Cobra Inlay, as I say. And this one is black Imperial Red with Anthracite, which is a very dark gray. And this one is on a black tactical buckle. But if you want to see how I do this, the Fishbelly with a Cobra Inlay, or the Fishtail Belly, aka Fishbelly, with the Cobra Inlay, stick around, because we'll get right to it. And I got all the tips and tricks and insights that this channel's known for. Okay, weavers, I'm set up, and we'll get started in just a second. First things first. Today, no shameless plug. For the sheer fact of what we're going to be doing, I don't want bracelets on my arm and potentially my microcord get snagged, caught up in. So I'm going without bracelets today. Okay, there's that. Let's see. This one, I see, this is two aspects to this. Okay, basically what we're doing is we're doing a main body of a bracelet, and then we're doing a cobra weave, which is being interwoven or inlaid into and on top of that bracelet. We're not going to stitch after the fact. Let me see, this concept come up in a conversation earlier with someone. And this is the way I see it. Now, I may be right, I may be wrong, but in my mind, this is the way I see it. When you weave the bracelet completely out, and then you come back after the fact with microcord and a stitching needle, and you basically sew into the bracelet, I call that stitching. But if you're making the bracelet and at the same time you're weaving it, you're using microcord 95 or, you know, one of the smaller cords, and you're weaving it into the bracelet as you're weaving the bracelet itself, I don't call that stitching. I call that interweaving. Makes sense? That's the way, in my mind, I see it. Like I say, right, wrong, that's the way I see it. Okay, let's see. But like I said, we're basically doing a main body of a bracelet, and then we're doing a cobra weave, but it's being interwoven or inlaid into the main bracelet. So in fact, we're doing two separate bracelets, but we're joining them together. Okay? Okay, now, with that said, I've heard this thing called quite a few things. You can look it up, the main bracelet, that is. I've never found a tutorial for what I'm going to do, what I'm going to show you today. But for the main part of the bracelet, I see it called a belly fishtail or a fishtail belly. Either way. Me, I simply just call it a fish belly for short. A fish belly with Cobra Inlay. That's the way I've titled this thing. Okay? Okay, now, let's see. Let's give credit where credit's due. As far as I can tell, and, you know, all the other tutorial videos, they list the Fishtail Belly or the Belly Fishtail or the Fishbelly. They give credit to Matthias Agnello. Right? Hope I pronounced that correct. Okay. That's the bracelet. The Cobra part is actually by Matthias, I assume is how you pronounce his name. He's got an Instagram account. I'll put the link to his account below, and you can look at some of his work. He's very, very amazing. Very talented. Matthias, I don't think he has an Instagram account. I looked around and tried to find some information. I couldn't find anything. So I can only mention him by name. I don't have any links or anything like that. Now, if somebody knows of, you know, YouTube channel, Pinterest, Instagram account, something like that where he actually has some work, put the link in the comments below so people can, you know, see him. Okay, but that's the credit where credit's due. This one, you can do this bracelet on a 5/8 inch or 3/4 inch. I've done it on both. Today I'm going to do it on a 5/8 inch. Right? Okay. Now, this bracelet is a 6-string. Anybody who knows how to do the fishtail belly or belly fishtail, whatever, I from henceforth I'm going to refer to it as a fish belly. Okay. For any of you who have ever done a fish belly, you know it's a 6-strand core. And if you watch some of the other tutorials, they may set up their 6-strand core different than I have done today. I don't think it really matters as long as you end up with a 6-strand core. But if you're unfamiliar with how it's done, I have a tutorial specifically for how to set up a 6-strand core. And it's a relatively short video considering the length of most of my videos. Okay, so with all that said, I'm going to give you a little bit of extra setup information. Because this one has this extra piece that is going to act as, okay, let's see if let me back up and explain this. Let me say this too. I can make this thing. But for me to explain what I'm doing in such a way that it will make sense to you, the viewer, I'm probably going to struggle with that. Okay? And so just bear with me. I'm gonna see if I can't do this and explain it in a instructional, teachable type way. But like I say, I could do it. But telling somebody else how to do it, yes, that's a little difficult. But anyway, with that said, this bracelet, like I say, I'll show you this just so you can see. Hopefully you can see this. What we have is black 550. And this piece that's running across my hand, this is a very dark gray. It's called anthracite. Okay. Under my hand are the 6-strand cores of the main body of the bracelet. This piece of gray is going to be the quote-unquote core strand of the Cobra aspect of this bracelet. Okay? Now, the way I'm going to set this up, I'm going to briefly explain this, the way I've done this. And I'll tell you, what I've done is temporary. Because at the very end, I'm going to change this. I'm going to see if I can explain to you why I'm doing it like this. Okay? Okay, the way I set up a 6-strand core is I start with the center of the black cord and I put a cow hitch right here at the bottom. Okay? Then I run it and I do all the, set up the strands, core strands and all that. Okay. This piece of gray, what I've done, I'm gonna tilt the camera and zoom in so you can see this, so you can see what I'm trying to explain to you. So the camera's going to move, and I'm going to have to readjust it. So for all that, I apologize. Like I say, I'm not a filmmaker, don't have the best lighting, don't have the best camera. But I can make one of these bracelets. And hopefully today I can even explain to you what I'm doing. And you'll be able to understand it and do this. Don't get discouraged. This thing is confusing. It takes a minute before you wrap your mind around what's going on. And once you get into the rhythm, no problem. But, like I said, I'm going to tilt my camera so hopefully you can see right down here what I got going on. I'm going to tilt it. And I'm going to zoom in. Maybe you'll be able to see this, hopefully. Hopefully you can see right here. Okay. This piece of gray, the accent as it's labeled in the description below. Now I've got it pretty long. You probably won't need the whole. I think I've got it marked as a 2-foot piece. You don't quite need it that long, but that's just what I've got. Okay. You run it through the hitch, the top part of the initial cow hitch of the 6-strand core setup. You run it through that hitch, and then you run it through the slot in the buckle. So it's coming out the back. It's going through the slot. Now that is temporary. After we weave the bracelet, we will change to this. But for now, that's the way we're going to do it. Because that will hold that piece of gray, that piece of anthracite tight. Okay? Now, like I say in a lot of my other videos, this piece that's hanging out the back, you want it long enough that in the end, when you attach your fid, you have enough slack to fold it back over itself, and the tip of the fid, there's clearance. So at the end, we're going to back weave it into the bracelet. Does that make sense? So make sure however much you've got hanging out there is longer than the fid by, you know, an inch, give or take. Okay? But like I say, it's going through that hitch and then down through the slot in the buckle, and it's just hanging out the back. That's it. Now on the top, this is where it can be a little tricky, because let me adjust my camera again. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to adjust the camera one more time. Let me make sure I got it in place where I need it to be. Yeah, I think that'll work. So I'm going to back out, and you can see this. Okay. So after you get that piece, that accent, that gray, or that anthracite ran through the hitch, you run it up, and all you do is go through that slot in the buckle and pull it out the back. Now I've got a whole bunch of it right here. So I got it coiled around this part of my jig, right? Just to keep it out of the way. Now, the reason I've done it this way, first off, I'll show you. I'll show you this. If you watch some of my videos, you've seen me do this or talk about this. Same thing. You want enough hanging out that when you put your fid at the very end and you go to back weave, you got enough for that fid to fold over itself, like I showed you with the bottom part, to back weave it into the back side of the bracelet. Right? So you want enough. But here's the issue. Because there's no hitch, the way I do my 6-strand core setup, you can do it different if you want. But because there's no hitch up here, this piece is loose. And when you start weaving, if it's not secured to something, it's going to start coming loose, and you don't want it to do that. So what I'm going to do is I pull the slack out, and then I just take it and wrap it around up here. And then You've seen my videos. I just got these little clips, little office paper clip type things, and just hold it there. And that will hold that secure enough for us to get started. Because after we get started and everything kind of tightens itself up, it'll hold itself in place. But for right now, we just got to go. We got to work with it. Okay. I know I'm talking, but I want this to be explained so it all makes sense, so you get it done right. Now, like I said, that is simply temporary. The way I have it going through that slot in the buckle here and through the slot in the buckle at the bottom is temporary, only for while we weave the bracelet. Once we finish weaving it, we're going to change that, because me personally, I don't like this piece of accent to be going through that slot. I want it to go through the bracelet itself. Okay, so we'll deal with that when we get to that. But for now, let's start the bracelet itself. Okay, you've often heard me talk about sometimes, a lot of times when I do these tutorials, I'll go ahead and put the fid on the end of the working ends. That way you can see what I'm doing as I'm weaving it, right? Makes it a little easier for the camera and you, the viewer, to see. I'm not going to do it with this today. But I tell you also that sometimes putting that fid on there makes it easier to weave the bracelet. Not necessarily for the camera to see it, but to weave it. It's easier to over, under, and then stick your fid and just pull it through on the other side, right? You've heard me talk about that. Well, that's what we're going to do with our piece of microcord. And the fact that this piece of microcord is so long, and you've got these two long cords, that's why I have no bracelets on. So potentially none of this stuff gets caught. It's going to get caught on something. It always does when I make one of these. But we just go slow and be careful. Don't let things get knotted up. Okay, but how we're going to start? We're going to start off. I'm going to see if I can explain to you. Just follow along. If you need to, pause it, back it up, put it on, YouTube has in the settings down there in the gearbox, you can slow the playback speed down, right? If you need to do that, go right ahead. Or rewind it and play it again. But I'm going to see if I can explain this. Okay, so what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take one end of our piece of microcord. And all we're going to do is go up under that piece of gray here. Let me zoom in so you can see this a little bit better. Hang on. Okay. What we're going to do, we're going to take that piece of that microcord, the end of it, and that gray or that anthracite, I'm gonna refer to it as gray. We go up under it and we pull through, ignoring the main 6-strand cord back there. We ignore that right now. Okay, so we're gonna go under there, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna find the halfway point. We'll pull it through. See, all my microcords already getting tangled up. Make sure I don't have any knots in this. Okay. My two ends of my microcord. Right? Find a halfway point. Many of you know how to do this. Right? There's the halfway point. Now what I'm going to do, hopefully you will be able to see this. Okay. Let's see. We got our halfway point. I'm going to tuck it up right there for a second. Okay, I'm going to see if I can, I'm going to give you a little tip. Just stick this in your mind and remember this as you do this. For those of you who have mastered the Cobra weave, you've heard me talk about this before. Okay, on the Cobra weave, you have the two working ends. One of those working ends is always, doesn't matter which side it's on, it's always going to go across the top of the core strand. The other one is going to go behind the core strand. Correct? So, if you start and you bring that one over those core strands and you do your knot, that same cord, even though it's now on the other side, it's still going to go across the top of the core strands, back and forth. And the other one is always going to go behind the core strands. We understand that? Okay. This cord that goes across the top, that's the cord itself that gets interwoven into the main body of the black bracelet. Right? Okay, now, I'll go ahead and tell you, just so you know it's coming. When we get to the end, you'll notice it before you get to the end. Even though we've started with our halfway point of this micro cord right there, the nature of the way this thing's woven, as we get down further and further and further, what's going to end up happening is the ends of these two pieces of micro cord are not going to remain even. One is going to get significantly shorter because it takes more of that side of the cord to weave it into the bracelet. Does that make sense? So when you get down to the end, your micro cord, you're going to have one piece that's like, a couple of inches. The other piece might be a foot long. But you have to start at the halfway point and just go with it. You'll see what I'm talking about in the end. Okay? That's one reason you got so much cord. Or we're using so much cord on this micro cord. Because of that little factor in there. Okay, now with that said, let's see if we can't do this. Like I said, the one I'm going to start with this red one on this side going across the bracelet. Across the top. This one is what I would refer to as the lead core strand, or the lead strand. So we're going to go across the top. Okay, we got that. Actually, let me back up, scratch that. I'm going to do this so I can, my hands, I've only got two hands. I'm going to, this one over here, I'm going to take this one and I'm going to find the end of it. This red, the red side of this, or this side of the red micro cord, that's the end of it in my hand. Okay? Now, this one is going to be the lead that goes across the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it across the top of that core strand, the gray core strand, not the 6 of the main body of the bracelet, simply the gray one. Okay. Now this one over here that I have the end in my hand, what I'm going to do from up top, I'm going to go over that piece of red right there. Right here where my thumb is, over. Then I'm going to go behind, up under that piece of gray. I'm going to angle that needle up. And this loop over here, I'm going to go up through that loop. So it's going over. And I'm going to pull it through. And that's the first part of the Cobra. I'm going to tighten it up. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to give that a pretty good tightening. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure, I'm going to check again to make sure that the center is up there. So I'm going to grab my two cords. I'm going to pull them through and make sure they're still centered. That way. Close enough. Right? And we just run them back. See that? They're centered. That's what we want. We want to make sure, because I'm telling you, when you go to do that little first Cobra knot, it tends to want to get off center, and you end up having more red on one side than you do the other, and that can cause an issue once you get to weaving. You can run out of cord on one side, so make sure it stays centered. Okay? Now, we've got that. So what we're going to do now, like I say, we're basically doing two bracelets. The main body, which is black, and then this Cobra part. So when we do this, we're going to interweave them or inlay the Cobra onto the main body of the bracelet. So the way we do this is we're gonna do part of the Cobra, then part of the main body of the bracelet. Back to the Cobra, back to the main body. So you're going to be switching between the two, but interweaving them together as we go. Okay? Now I'm going to tell you, this one right here, because of the nature of the way this is, these 6-strand cord, the way I've got it set up is they're not laid flat. You don't have your 6 strands laying up there flat right here at the top. So they're all kind of bunched up together. So as you weave, they'll flatten itself out and it'll work. But like I always say, the very beginning of one of these bracelets is never going to look right. Well, this one, it seems more so than most of the other ones. It doesn't want to look right. You can't get it quite tight. Everything's not right. So what I'll do sometimes, not always, but sometimes, if need be, is I'll weave it about 4, 5, 6 repetitions, and then I'll come back with my chain nose pliers, jeweler's pliers. Where are those things at? Oh, here they are. My chain nose jeweler's pliers, and I'll use them to tighten up all the little individual aspects of the 4 or 5 repetitions that I've done. So everything falls and seats into place and everything's nice, neat, clean, and tight the way we want it, right? And then once I do that, then I just go back and I just weave the rest of the bracelet. But like I say, the beginning can be a little chaotic because you got to make sure you get your steps in order, your mechanics and all that, okay? So, I'm going to see if I can't walk you through this. Like I say, I know I may be talking a lot, but I try to explain to you not only what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, but more importantly, why I'm doing it. So you'll understand all this. Okay. Remember, this side right here is our lead part of the Cobra, meaning that's the one that went across the top of the core strands. This one over here is the one that went around the back side of that single gray core strand. Right, so this one is the one that's going to get interwoven or inlaid into the black part of the bracelet. Okay, so what we're going to do right here is where it's going to get inlaid or interwoven. We're going to take this black main working strand right here. We're going to come around and go over the top of that piece of red and the 3 core strands that are on this side. And we're going to go down through the middle of them. Right? And you notice the gray is over here on this side. We're not messing with it right now. So this black goes over the red and over the 3 core strands on this side. And just go down through that middle slot. Reach around to the back and grab a hold of it and pull your excess through. And we'll just kind of put it over here so it's out of the way. We got that. Now we notice how now that red is going up under that piece of black. That's the interweaving, that's the inlay part. That's what's going to hold that, the Cobra, to the main body of the bracelet. You understand? Okay, now, what we're going to do, again, we did part of the main body of the bracelet, now we're going to go back to the Cobra. Okay, now what I'm going to do is this one on this side, the secondary cord, lead cord of the Cobra, secondary cord of the Cobra. I'm going to, again, find the end. Right? Red cord goes down, comes up, here's the end. I'm going to take the lead cord and I'm going to bring it across right here, across that gray core strand. Now this one, the red that's coming from this side, from up here, go over the top, just like a normal Cobra. Don't let the size of the cord confuse you. All we're doing is a Cobra. Going over the top, underneath that gray, and that tip of that needle, gonna angle it up and get it through this loop over here, so it's going over that red there. Just like a normal Cobra. And we're going to pull our excess through. Right? Now, we're just going to cinch it up. And like I said, this thing's not going to want to look right. It's not going to look tight. It's not going to do right. We'll fix it. We're just going to take it slow. Once you get it going and get it kind of tightened, everything will work right. Okay, I'm going to take this one that I wrapped around this main working black strand that I set over here. I'll kind of give it a little cinch on that back side. Now, I'm going to take the 2 reds and I'm going to kind of cinch them up. Push it up to the top, kind of tighten it up a little bit. Okay, now, what we're going to do, and since these 2 red strands are constantly back and forth, they're switching, alternating sides, what tends to happen, and this is the issue, is that the ends of them that are down here that you can't see, they start getting all tangled up, right? Hence why no bracelets today and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to keep all that stuff from getting tangled down there because these are quite long, right? Okay, so make sure we got them separated down there. All right, now we did that. We're going to go back to the main part of the bracelet. We're going to take the working end that's coming out of this side. Not the one we just did, but the other one, right? And we're going to do it the same way as we did on this side. We're going to come these 3 core strands that are on this side and this piece of red micro cord, that secondary piece of red micro cord, we're going to bring this piece of main black working end across the top of all of those and go down through the middle slot in the bracelet. Again, noticing that the gray is now on this side. Grab the end of it, and pull your excess through. Kind of cinch it up, pushing it up, pulling those ends, cinching them up. Go to your reds, kind of cinch them up. And you're going to notice nothing's going to want to stay tight at first. Everything's going to kind of just not do right. That's why I say I'll most likely come back with the pliers and kind of tighten it up. Okay, now we've done that. Okay, now this is where it kind of can be confusing, but I'm going to just show you what we're going to do here. Let's see. I said I was going to go back to the Cobra. Let me do this first. This piece of black that we just did, what I'm going to do is over here, taking the gray accent and moving it out of the way, so you can see these 3 core strands that are right here. The 3 core strands on this side. Okay, the outermost one on this side, we're going to take that piece of black, and instead of wrapping around that outer core strand, we're going to go through that first slot and bring it up. Hopefully you can make out what I'm doing. We'll pull the excess through. Makes sense? Now I'm going to just have it over here. And just leave it right there for a second. Okay, now we're going to go back to the Cobra Inlay. Okay, again, like I say, this one on this side is now it still is the lead cord, because it went under the black, and it's the one that's going to go across the top of those core strands, correct? All right. So we're going to take the secondary micro cord of the Cobra strand. Find the end of it again. There's the end of it. We're going to take the lead cord, and we're going to come across the top of the gray, just like a normal Cobra. And this red over here, hang on, let me get this positioned so you'll be able to see what I'm doing. This red over here that I've got the end for in my hand, it's going to go over the red here, under the gray right here, and then I'm going to angle that needle up so the tip of it goes up through this loop over the red right there. Normal Cobra weave, and I'm going to pull that excess through. Hopefully, look, you see what I'm saying, how it all gets tangled? That's what I'm talking about. It just kind of gets tangled because you got it. You'll see when you do this, just be careful, take your time, don't get frustrated, right? Okay, and we'll just tighten it up. Give it a little loose cinch, kind of push it up to the top. Okay, now, what we're going to do here, over here on this side, that lead cord, the one that just crossed the core strands, is now on this side. It gets interwoven or inlaid into the black bracelet. And again, what we're going to do, in order, I'll show you this. Hopefully this will make sense. The way this fish belly is done, just look on this side here. You got the olive drab, that would be the black. See how it wraps around that outer core strand. Well, the next repetition, it doesn't. It skips the outer core strand and goes through that first slot. And then the next one, it goes around the outer core strand. It alternates. Okay, that's what me coming up through that core strand was. I was creating that little gap in that outer core strand. Make sense? Okay, so with that said, we're going to come over this piece of red here and the 2 core strands that are on this side. And again, notice that the gray accent is on this side. I'm not messing with it. I'm just going over the red and those 2 inner core strands right there. And we're going to go down through the slot in the middle. I'm pulling the excess through. Now I'm going to just kind of get this out of the way. I'm going to put it up here and get it out of the way for right this second. Okay. Now, we've got that in there. Now, right here are the main core strands of the black bracelet. They're still kind of bunched together. We want them to kind of lay flat. So you kind of flatten them out with your fingers a little bit. Give us a little tug. Right? Kind of tighten it up here. Tighten this up. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, this core strand, main working end of the main body of the bracelet, not the one we just did, but the other one. On this one, we're going to, instead of wrapping around that outer core strand, we're going to create the gap. So we're going to pull that outer core strand out and come up through that slot right there. All right? Okay. Now, again, back to the Cobra. This one, the lead cord strand, it just got interwoven or inlaid under the black. That's the one that's going to come across the top of the core strand, the gray core strand. Right? Okay. So, what we do is the red on this side, we find the end of it. Now, we take the lead red Cobra strand, go across the gray, right here where my thumb is, and this one over here, the end of the red coming out on this side, the secondary of the Cobra strands, we're going to go over the red here, under the gray here, tilting that needle up and going through this loop so we go over the red right there, and we pull our excess through, making sure, see, it gets tangled every time. You just have to be patient, make sure nothing gets knotted and tangled. I'm pulling it through. When you get it up there, give it a little cinch. Okay, now we're going back to this side of the Cobra. This is the one that went across the core strand, the lead Cobra strand, the one that gets interlaid or interwoven or inlaid into the bracelet. Right? This black core strand that we just went up through that first slot, we're going to come up and over that piece of red and those two core strands that are on that side. And again, notice that the gray and those three core strands are over here. The middle of all the core strands. Over the red, over those other two core strands right there, and down through that middle slot. And I'm going to just pull the excess through. Alright. I'm going to kind of push everything up, kind of give it a little cinch. And this one I'm going to pull all this stuff up, kind of get a little as tight as I can for now. Now, that right there is the entirety of all the knot. You got all the repetitions and all that. That's the whole cycle. Now we're going to start over. Like I say, push this up. Okay. So what we're going to do here, we're going to take our secondary strand of the Cobra, meaning the one that's going behind the core strand. It's this one. We're going to find the end of it. Now on the other side, the lead Cobra strand, that's the one that's going to go across the gray. Right? Across the top of the gray there. Okay. Now the secondary one that I've got the end of right here, it's going to go over the top of the red right there, behind or under the gray right there, angling your needle up to go through this loop so it goes over the red right there. All you're doing is a cobra with this red cord, and the gray is acting as the core strand. And then we just pull our excess through, making sure it's not snagging or getting caught or tangled and all that. I mean, that's the worst part about this is, okay, now we got it. We're going to give it a little snug down. Now, hopefully you can see this right here. The cobra is starting to take shape. The bracelet, you can't quite see the bracelet because we haven't done quite enough of it, but the cobra part, the Cobra Inlay part, you're starting to see it. Right? Okay, so now what we do, make sure you got your cords. The red one on this side, put it over on that side. Take that red one, put it over on that side. Make sure so the ends down there aren't, because like I said, they're both constantly going back and forth, crossing each other. We don't want our ends down there to get knotted and tangled. So just be mindful of that as you go through this and do this. Okay, the lead one. This is the one that went across the top of the gray strand, the lead cobra strand. That's the one, again, that gets interwoven or inlaid into the main body of the bracelet. Okay, now this one, what we're going to do here is we're going to come all the way around the outside of the outer core strand. And we're going to go over the top of the red and over these 3 core strands on this side. Again, notice that the gray is on this side along with those 3 core strands. So this piece of black wraps around, goes down through that middle slot. I'm going to reach around the back and grab a hold of it. And I'm going to just pull the excess through and getting it out of my way. Okay? Now, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to show you something. If you're picking this up and you're getting this, great. If you're struggling with this right here, ignore what I'm about to say because it might throw you off. But if you're picking this up, here's your little tip. It'll help you speed the process up. That cord right there that we just wrapped around and went down through the thing, if you want, you can go ahead and bring it up through that first slot, and that'll go ahead and get you that gap that we're going to create, that alternating gap on the side, right? You can go ahead and do that. It's kind of combining 2 steps into one, I guess, but for the sake of this video, I'm not going to do it yet. Okay, now pushing it up, I'm pulling this tight. The one that's wrapping around the core strand here, going down through the middle slot up under the gray. Now, we'll tighten this up. Okay, now, back to the cobra. The secondary cobra strand, the one, find the end of it. That's the end of it. Over here on the lead cobra strand, the one that's going to go across the top. It just was interwoven or inlaid under that piece of black. Now it's going to go across the top of the gray. It's coming out from under the black, coming down, going to cross the top of that gray piece. Now this, the secondary cobra piece of red, from up top, you go across the top of the red there, under the gray right here where my thumb is, angling your needle up. I'm going through this loop so that it goes over the red here. Basic cobra weave. Like I said, don't let the smaller cord throw it off, the mechanics off in your brain. I know for me, when I first tried to do this, it did for me. I kept getting confused. And I thought, it's no different. It's just a normal cobra weave, except I'm using microcord. And I was like, I guess that's what's throwing me off. Okay, but you got it. And then you come up, and you pull your excess through. When you get all of it through, grab the red on this side and give it a cinch. Okay, now this is the lead cobra. It's going to get inlaid or interwoven into the bracelet. We're going to take the black piece, not the one we just did, but the other one. And we're going to wrap around the outer edge of this outer core strand on that side. We're going to go over that piece of red and over the 3 core strands that are on this side. And again, I'm going to say this every time. Again, notice that the piece of gray is now over here with these 3 core strands, right? So we're going to bring this black around the outer edge, over the red, over those 3 core strands, and down through that middle slot. Reaching around the back, all the way around the back, under that piece of red, I'm grabbing that black and pulling your excess through. Pushing it up, pulling it. Now you can grab both pieces of black and kind of pull them. Grab your reds, kind of pull them, and push everything up. Okay, now, you got this far. You're starting to see everything look the way it's supposed to. Okay, now, these core strands, the main black core strands, you want them to eventually lay flat, like I've already mentioned. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of flatten them out with our hands when we pull these black ones. That way, because what happens is if you pull these 2 black ones too tight, it's going to cause them to bunch back up. So you don't want to pull them too tight. You know, like I say, I'll pull it as tight as I can. Not on this one. We don't want to do it on this one because we don't want our core strands to bunch back up again. We want them to lay flat. That way the bracelet is flat and has some width to it. Right? And what I'll do is I'll take the core strands and I'll pull them, and I'll kind of pull them around, you see what I'm saying? And I'll put my thumb on the top and kind of flatten it out. That way it separates all these core strands. Now this gray one, it'll get mashed down in there, but next time we need to pull it, it'll pop back up out of there and we can just work with it. But we're trying to flatten out them black ones so they're laying side by side and they're not all crammed over the top of each other. Make sense? Okay, pull it, push it up. Okay, now, what we're going to do here. See, I'm in my brain, I'm having to remember what I do next. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to move this red out of the way, just for right now. I'm going to take this black string that's on this side, and instead of wrapping around that outer core strand, we got to create the little gap. So what we're going to do is that outer core strand we're going to separate from the 2 inner core strands that are on this side. We're going to take out a piece of black and we're going to come up through that slot. Okay, now we got that. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take that red strand and bring it back. Okay, again, this is the lead cobra. If you've noticed, and I've said, that lead cobra strand, it's the same strand, it just alternates which side it's on. The secondary strand, the one that goes around the back of the gray core strand, it's the same, it's always that same cord, but which side that it is on alternates as you go down through there. Makes sense? Okay. Secondary cobra strand. Find the end of it. There it is. Okay. Going to the lead cobra strand. We're going to come across the top of the gray. Right here. Lead cobra strand coming down. It's going up under my fingers. I'm holding it. It's going across the top of the gray. Now this one over here, the secondary one that I have the end for, again, basic cobra weave. Going over the top of the red right here, behind the gray right here, angling your needle up and going through this loop so that it goes over the red there. And then you just pull that needle and pull your excess through. Make sure it's not getting caught and snagged and twisted and all that stuff as you pull it through. And when you get it up there like that to a manageable on it, you just tighten it up. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this cobra strand on this side and move it out of the way, and I'm going to get this black one. And again, we got to create the gap. So we're not going to wrap around that outer strand. I'm going to go up through that first slot and go ahead and pull it up through there. So it's there and it's waiting on us. Right? Okay. That cobra strand, we'll bring it back over to the side that it's supposed to be on. Okay, now, I'll push everything up. This one, the lead cobra strand, the one that goes across the core strand, it gets interwoven or inlaid into the thing, into the main bracelet. Okay, so we'll take that black. It's already skipped that outer core strand. We're going to bring it across over the top of the red, over the top of the two other black core strands that are on this side. Again, noticing the gray is now over here. And that black is going to go right down through the middle slot. I'm going to reach around behind everything and grab it and pull the excess through. And I'm going to get it up out of the way. Pull it tight, push everything toward the top, pull it. Pull a red. Okay. Now, pay attention. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to do this last little rep, and then I'm going to show you something. The lead one, the one that's interwoven or inlaid, again, it's going to come across the top, but we're going to get a secondary one, and we're going to find our end. This one, the lead one, is going to go across the gray, across the gray. Let me get my fingers up under there so I can hold this so you'll be able to see what's going on here. Over the gray. Okay, now this one right here, the secondary one, coming from up here, it's going to go over the top of the red there, behind the gray there, angle that needle up and go through this loop so it goes over the red right there. And then pull it through. Pull your excess through slowly so it's not tangled. Make sure it's not tangled or anything like that. Okay, and then when you get it to a manageable level, you grab your two and you pull them up. Right? Okay. Give it a little cinch. Now, again, this piece of black that we've skipped the outer core strand, and it's coming up through that first slot. What we're going to do, we're going to go over the red and over those two inner core strands on this side. Again, noticing the gray is on that side now. And we're going to go down through that middle slot, reaching around, I'm grabbing that black cord that just went through the middle slot and pulling our excess through. Okay, now, right here is where I'm going to take a break for a second, and I'm going to tighten everything up. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the two blacks. I'm going to kind of push everything up and try to get everything straight, because now we can see everything starting to take shape like we want it to. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pull this, like I said, putting your thumbs on the top and taking the two black pieces and rolling them up towards you. And now kind of flatten everything out, pushing it up. Okay, now here's your tip. Okay? You can do this either way. It doesn't matter. Just be mindful that you don't pull it too hard and pull things out of place. But that gray strand that's going through there, I am going to reach down here to the bottom where I showed you that gray piece that's hanging out the back side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a hold of it and I'm going to pull it. And that's going to pull the slack in this gray out. And it's going to tighten all this up, and it's going to tighten all that up. I'll do that as I weave a little bit. I'll do it. I'll weave a little bit more, and I'll do it. That'll kind of keep the gray piece straight and all this stuff evenly spaced out. And if you look, you can see there's a little gray triangle right here where the red is forming this little gray triangle, and then you got one on this side. Well, the next one is kind of small. You're like, what's going on there? Why is it? That's what I'm about to fix, all that. I'm going to pull this. I'm going to hold the buckle, and I'm going to pull it. It's going to pull all this. And I'm going to actually reach up here and do it on the top side, too. I'm going to untangle all my stuff up here. I'm going to pull it up here. And it's going to pull that gray strand tight. And I'm going to go through. Now, what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. Hopefully, you got the basics, the mechanics of it. Just take it slow and get the steps in the right order and just start doing it. Okay? Like I said, if you get confused, the tip to remember, the lead Cobra strand is the one that always goes across the top of the core strand. Okay? That's the one that's going to go underneath the piece of black. And it does it every time under this piece of black, and then when it crosses over, it goes under the piece of black on that side and piece of black on this side. You see what I'm saying? Under here. Does that make sense? And it switches sides all the way down. Now, that's what takes so long to do this. Is you're trying to keep it all straight, neat, clean, and tight, and make sure all your overs and unders are all that right. But if you just take your time, you can do it. It's tricky. But once you get it, and you got in your head how to do this, you got the rhythm of it, just take your time and don't let all these cords get tangled. Just take it slow and you can do it. All right? But like I said in the beginning, everything's not the top of the bracelet, more so, probably more so on this one. Nothing looks right, nothing's tight, everything's out of whack. It just, this is where I'm going to take a break. I'm going to stop the camera, and I'm going to tighten all this up and get it straight. You know, like I said, I'm going to take my pliers chain nose pliers. They have no serrations on them. And I'm going to tighten all this up, and I'm going to get it straight and even, neat, clean, and tight. And when I do, and everything's locked into place and tight, then I'll start, and I'm going to just weave it down to the end, right? But I'm going to come back. I'm going to take a break, turn the camera off, and I'm going to fix all this, and I'm going to come back when I get down to the end, and I'm going to show you how I finish it. Makes sense? But there you go. Hopefully that I was able to explain that and show you in such a way that you could understand it. Hopefully. But like I said, I'll come back and I'll show you how I'll finish this off. And I'm going to show you, like I said, the way that I've done the gray accent cord at the top and the bottom, that's a temporary thing. And I'm gonna reweave it, I guess, for lack of a better term, once I get to the way it's going through the slot and the buckle up here and down here, that gray accent piece. That's only temporary. Like I said, once I get done weaving the bracelet, I'm going to modify that, change that, reweave it, whatever term you want to apply to it. But stick around and I'll show you how I'm going to do it. That way, the way I'm going to end up doing it, it looks better to me. Now, you may want to leave it that way. That's fine. It's personal preference. But I like it better the way I'm going to do it. Stick around. Maybe you'll see it. Maybe you'll agree. Maybe you'll disagree. Don't know. But check it out. Stick around. I'll be back. Okay, weavers. I've got this thing all the way almost to the end. And I'm going to finish this thing off. And like I say, this one's a little tricky and all that. So I'm going to see how I'm going to finish this off. And I'm going to show you folks. But I'll say this. I'm going to come back. And I'm going to add the accent stitching along the sides. So I'm not going to completely finish this one in this video. I'll show you what I'm talking about. If you look, you can see right here on the side, there's a piece of 95 gold, which matches the gold 550 under this. And if we can see this, I've also done some stitching in maroon down the side. Okay, I'm gonna make another video showing how to do that. But in this one, I'm gonna just simply finish this bracelet, and I'm gonna show you, like I said, this accent gray piece, anthracite, this up here at the top and the bottom. I'm gonna show you how I tuck that and back weave it. I told you this was all temporary the way I have it. Now that it's actually inlaid into the bracelet and it's not going anywhere now. I'll show you how I'll do that. Okay, so let's see. How am I going to do this? We're close to the end. I'm going to get down here as close as I can. Excuse me. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Maybe you can see this a little bit better. Okay, where we're at, we've got a red piece, the lead Cobra piece that's been inlaid or interwoven up under that block piece. Right, and we've just went around the outer edge of the core string. So this one needs to come up. It needs to bypass that edge core string. Now, the way I've done my 6-string core, the two core strings right here, they're almost overlapping each other, right? Because of they're getting close to the buckle. But I'm going to go ahead and run this through here. Make sure I've got it in the right place. Yes. Like I've said, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, the way I've got it set up, the camera's looking straight down, but I'm looking at it at an angle from this way. So it's kind of hard for me to see, but I want the camera to be able to see what I'm doing. So if it looks like I'm struggling, most likely because I am, because I can't see it quite well. I want the camera to be able to see it. Okay, there's that one. We've got that one. Now, we're going to bring our lead piece. It gets tight down here in the end, hence why, I was using those earlier. But I've got them on the main working ends of the body of the bracelet, the working ends of that cord also. Because it does get tight. So we're going to bring this across. And this one is the one that's going to go over the top of the red, and then it's going to go under the red, under that piece of gray, and you got to be careful to make sure you get it in the right place, and then over the red here. And we're going to pull that slack through. All right. Tighten that up. Okay, now we've already got this black piece ready. I'm going to bring it over the top of that red. And since it's so tight, you can't see it very well, but you'll see the two. I already bypassed that outer core strand, but the other two are right here. And I'm going to just go over the top of those two core strands, and then up under that piece of gray. And I can't move it again. Move it to the side. Notice it's on this side. I can't do that now because it's so tight. So I'm going to just have to put it down through there. See, it's sticking out the back. All right. I'm going to pull it through, making sure, mindful of the twist if there's one there. Pull it through, kind of tighten it up. Okay, now I'm going to show you something. I'm going to zoom back out and show you this. I mentioned this in the beginning. Let me zoom out so you can see what I'm talking about. You get a better idea of this. I told you to start off with the middle point of the red cord up here, right? I said be sure, and I double checked it to make sure I was in the midpoint. And I told you, as you weave down, the nature of the way this micro cord is interwoven into this, when you get down here to the end, excuse me, what's going to happen is one of the cords is going to end up being shorter than the other one, because it's that cord has used more in all this up here. So they're no longer going to be even down here. Hence why the measurement in the description below is long. That way, we know we're going to have enough, because after you do all this and you get down here and you realize you didn't have enough cord, I'm telling you, it's going to be the most frustrating thing, because you went through all this. All right? Okay, but I'm going to show you this. Here's these two cords. All right? I'm going to just pull them out. They say there's one of them, and you see how much more we have on the other one. It's almost a foot longer. I told you, that's just the nature of this. That's why I have so much of this cord, to make sure that that one that ends up being short, even though it's being shortened through all this weaving, you still end up having enough. And you see, I've got a foot there. That's my buffer. My buffer to make sure that I got enough. Okay. So, now, we're back here. Okay, what I'm going to do, the one that I just bypassed this outer core strand and went down and went through is, let's see, is this cord. Get it up out of the way. Now this other black one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run it through, doing a wraparound, but not around that outer core strand. We see it here. Let me zoom back again. Sorry. I'm going to go ahead and pull it. And like I've said in a lot of my videos, and I'll be honest with you, I had to do it in here. I had to do it. As I'm weaving this, sometimes your mistakes, they won't show on the front. But when you flip the thing around and you look at the back side of it, you'll go, ooh, I made a mistake. I'm going to be honest with you. I made two mistakes. I'd weave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, and I'd stop and I'd turn around and look, and I realized you got a mistake. But it was only noticeable on the back side. It wasn't entirely noticeable on the front. But me, the way I am, I unwove it, fixed the mistake, and began again. But that happened to me twice. So, you know, like I say, this one, you just got to get the steps in order. And, you know, there's quite a few steps. Okay, so, back to this. We've got this one. We've made the bypass on that outer core strand. We're going to pull it. Okay, now, this is the lead cord that's going to go over the gray. I think this is going to be about the last one I'm going to get in there. I'm going to go over the gray, which is acting as the core strand for the Cobra. And this one, find the end of it. I'll get my hand out of the way. Hang on. Find the end of it. The secondary Cobra strand, the end of it. I went across the core strand. I'm going to go over the red here. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my angle on this thing. And I'm going to go under the red from the bottom. And this is tight, but I'm going to get it up under there. If I have to push that piece of black right there, kind of push it up out of the way a little bit, I'm going to get it up under that piece of gray best I can. Like I said, I can't quite see. There we go. And then I'm going to go over that piece of red right there. And I'm going to pull the slide through. Getting that twist out. Now, we'll tighten that up. That's going to be the last one of those that I do. Now, I'm going to have to terminate them. And the way I'm going to do this, like I do most of my bracelets, somehow I'm going to get them to the back side of the bracelet. That way they can be cut and burned on the back, not on the front. We don't want to see that. Okay, so this one right here is the lead strand of the Cobra. So that's going to be the one that gets inlaid or interwoven. The way I'm going to do it is this one this black strand that we just bypassed that outer core strand. I'm going to bring it up and over again like we've done through the whole process. And then, again, it's a tight fit. But I'm going to go over those next two core strands. And then I'm going to stick it down. And you're just going to have to kind of feel. It'll go through there. Now, I'm going to flip this over and make sure it's going through where I want it and everything's working on the back. Yeah. And I'm going to pull it through. Okay, now what I'm going to do here, the way I'm going to end this one, this is what I'm going to do. Yeah, I think this will work nicely. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So hopefully you'll be able to see this in a little bit better detail. You'll get a better, hang on just a sec, folks. Let me get this out of my way. That keyboard to my computer is kind of hindering me moving this thing. Okay, I'm going to get the light over here. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, what I'm going to do, we got the two black ones, we got the two red ones. This red one that I went over it with that black piece, I shouldn't have done it that way, but that's okay, because we can fix it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that red piece, I'm going to run it. I'm not going to run it back up under the black piece. I'm going to run it down through the same spot that black piece is going through. Right through the middle of the 3 core strands on this side and the 3 core strands on this side. I'm going to just get it right in there where that black piece went through that we just did. I'm going to just run it right down through there and get it to the back side of the bracelet. Like I say, I can't see. It's tight, so I might struggle getting it through. I think that's in there. I think that's where I want it. Now, like I say, I'm going to flip it over and make sure it's in where I want it. Yeah, that looks right. Now we're just going to pull it all the way through, and it's going to just disappear. Basically down into that bracelet. Or down to the back side. Yeah, okay. Now this one right here on this side, we're going to do it the same way. let me make sure. Let me make sure this is going to turn out right. Yeah. This one on this side, I'm going to just find the end of it. I'm going to do the same thing. It's going over the top of that piece of red. But then I'm going to run it down up under the accent, that gray piece, on this side of the hitch up here. And I'm going to go right down through three-quarter strands on this side, three-quarter strands on this side. I'm going to angle it so it goes behind the gray, but through the slot between the three-quarter strands that are on either side. And just pull it down through there. Bam. And that's the end of it. That's the way that's going to end. Okay, now, so we've got the two pieces of micro cord right here. They're on the end. We're done with those. Get those up and out of the way. Now, to finish this off, all I'm going to do is basically take these two and just wrap it around like normal, all the way around that outer core strand that's there, right? Even though it's kind of curled around the back side because we're right here next to the buckle, same thing. But now it's going to go through the same spot that the rest of them have went through. Over the three-quarter strands on this side and up under that gray accent and then down through that middle. I'm going to make sure that I'm going through the right spot. Yeah. And we're just going to, hang on. We're just going to pull it through. And that's going to be it for that side. So this one, that's the one I just ran down through there. It's done. Put it up here out of the way. Now, the last one is this one on this side. We're going to do it the same way. We're going to wrap it around that outer strand and all that, and then we're going to go up under that gray piece and down through the middle of all the core strands, which you can't see because it's so tight, but if you do it, if you got that fid and you get it, it'll go through there. Now, again, I'm going to make sure it's where I want it to be. Yep. And now, I'm going to just pull it through. See how it's twisting? It's got a little twist in it. I'm going to correct it by twisting back here as I pull. Bam. And that's it. That's going to be how it ends, like that. Okay? But now we're going to deal with all this back here. And this gray piece, like I said, so I'm going to zoom out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to take it off this jig. And I'll show you this. Alright. Ooh. Not that far. Okay, I'll take it off the jig. Like I do on a lot of these videos, show you how tight I pull this jig. I'll take this off. Actually, just watch right there where the male goes into the female part right there. I'm gonna see if I can unclip this. You see they're right next to each other. See how much of a space is? That's how much tension I had on that. Right? Okay, now I'm gonna get this out of the way. And this piece here, it's rather long. And I'm going to take it off down here. Set the bracelet down, get the jig out of the way. So we got to, before I put this thing down, because this is black, and any kind of dirt, dust, specks, whatever, are going to show up on that black bracelet. So let's try to wipe that down best we can. Okay. Now, like I said, as I wove this thing, I was pulling on the gray accent piece, right, that's going through the buckle. I'd pull on it every now and then, and it would kind of tighten that piece up. Every now and then, I'd unravel the way I had it twisted. I'd unravel that and do the same thing. But that's what I'm going to do right here. I'm going to give this a pull to see, and we're going to try to make that thing as straight as we can in there. It's already pretty straight. What I'm doing, I'll let you see what I'm doing. I'll give you the point of view that I'm looking at. Yeah, there's a spot right there that looks a little out of whack. When you look at it straight ahead, when you look at it like from this point of view, you don't see so much what I'm excuse me, what I was looking at. But like I've seen in a lot of my videos, if you take that bracelet and you tilt it up like this and you look at it down from that point of view, you can see all these little mistakes where you've pulled one piece tighter or not as tight as the other one. Things start to pop out. But you see right here where my finger is, if I get the light on it just right, you'll be able to see this. Right there where my finger is. You see how that red, like it dips down right there? It's because it got pulled a little tighter there than the rest of it. It's just tension consistency. That's what it is. Like I say, I'm not perfect. But you know, looking at it like this, you don't see it. But you look at it like that, you will see all those little mistakes more so from that point of view. But like I've said, we see them. But when you put the thing around your wrist, you're not going to notice all that. But we don't want them there. We try not to have those things, but, you know, we're not perfect. Okay, so let's see what we're going to do here. I'm going to look at it and make sure that I got everything the way I want it. Okay, I'm going to do this one up here first, and I'll show you. If you watch the one I did, the bone leaves modified, oh, wrong direction. The bone leaves modified. It was the same principle. We look at it. We see how that piece of gray is going through the slot in the buckle. I don't want it going through there. I want it actually going through the bracelet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little knotter's tool or whatever, and I'm going to run it up under that piece of gray. And I'm going to pull it back through. See, now it's attached. It's not coming off of there. Okay? Now I'm going to make the end of it. I had to cut and burn it flat to get it to go through that slot in that buckle. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reburn it and shape it so I can put a fit on it. Get it hot. Let it sit there for just a second. Lightly. Don't put a lot of pressure on it. Just run your finger down it as you kind of spin it. And it'll shape it to a tapered point, and it won't be flat anymore. Let it cool off and come back. Hopefully I can get that fit on there. Yeah, I think that'll work. And just put the fit on there. Just enough, because all we're going to do is we're going to come up here. Okay, see where that red is. I'm going to go above the red, but in between those core strands. But I'm not going to go through the slot. I'm going to go just below the metal of the buckle, through the middle of all those core strands. Right? I'm going to just pull it through. See how, to me, that looks better having that gray disappear as opposed to it going all the way up and running through that buckle slot. Make sense? And now we just got it on the back side. And we'll back weave it up under one or two of these and just cut and burn it. Right? But not yet, because I'm going to stitch it. But what I'll do, it really doesn't matter where you do it, but I'm going to run it up under two of them. Let's see. I'll probably do it. Get a hold of it. Sorry. These two right here. Just run it up under those two. Alright? Just like that. Now, that's going to be where we're going to anchor all our 95 and our stitching also that we're going to do down the sides. You see that? pull it through. Make sure it's not twisted. It's got a little bit of a twist, so I'm gonna twist it as I pull it, so it straightens out. That way it'll lay flat right there. All right, okay, there's that. I'm gonna look back at the front, and when you do that, it's gonna kind of pull that top piece of red kind of out of whack a little bit. You can kind of try to fix it with your finger best you can. Give it a little snug down. Oh, sorry. But pull it on this, it pulls that piece of red. That first part of that Cobra, it kind of pulls it up, and it creates these two uneven gaps, as opposed to the way the rest of them are pretty even. The little triangles I was talking about earlier, they're more noticeable here. Just kind of try to fix it best you can. But as always, the very beginning of a bracelet's never going to look the same as the meat. Just like the end, it's not going to look the same as the meat. We try our best to keep it consistent all the way down, but it's not always possible just because of the nature of the weave. Okay, now we got that through there, right? Now I'm going to leave me about 1.5 inches because I am going to come back and stitch it. So I don't want to do the cut and burn, because what'll happen is that melted piece of plastic that you flatten out right there, it could potentially get in the way of the stitching that I know I'm going to do. So I don't do that. All I do, leave me about 1 inch, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, and I just cut it. And that gets the majority of it out of the way, so this is not getting in the way of when I'm stitching. I'm not having this getting tangled with the micro cord and all that other stuff, right? So now, that right there, just to have it, I'm going to just burn it. Just melt it so it doesn't fray. That's it. Just let it cool like it is. That little piece right there, what is that? About 4 or 5 inches. Okay, now, basically what we're going to do here, we're going to put a fid back over there, get the lighter out of the way. Now, what we're going to do here is basically the same thing. What we've got going on is we've got a piece of red, a piece of black on that side. We got a piece of red and a piece of black on this side, and then we got this piece of gray. We're going to do this gray the same way we did the one we just finished. We're going to do that also, but I'll do it in a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run this piece of red. Do I want to do it? I guess it really doesn't matter. I think what I'm going to do, I'll tell you why I'm going to do this, okay? Hopefully this will make sense. If I try to put both pieces of this black 550, both pieces of this red micro cord, and this piece of gray back woven up under the very same spot, what's going to happen is it's going to pull those two pieces of 550 real tight, and it's going to cause the front of the bracelet to get distorted more than we want it to be. So I'm going to all those cords going up under it, I'm going to disperse them. I'm going to spread them out. I'm going to put some on this side, back weave them on this side of the bracelet, and the ones on this side I'm going to back weave into this one. And then I'm going to just make a command decision which side am I going to put the gray up under. Makes sense? That way they're not all in one spot, and it causes the front of the bracelet to be distorted. Because on this style weave, when you do that, it's going to cause that piece, those two pieces you run up under on the back, you'll notice it on the front. It'll get pulled in. It'll look like it'll have a dent on the side of it. Okay? Hopefully it won't do that. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to just take what we got here, I'm going to just run them up under, these two pieces right here. One is going around that outer core strand and one up above it is bypassing that outer core strand. I'm going to just run up under those two pieces. If I can get it to go up under there. Yeah. There we go. Right? We see that? Just run it up under there. Pull it through. That's going to be it for that one. Now, the black piece that's on that side, we're going to do it the same way. Run it up under the same two pieces. Right? Same two pieces. We'll pull it through. Making sure. Getting that twist out. Right? If you look, these two right here are the ones that I ran up under on the back side. It doesn't look too distorted, like indented right there. But if I try to put all of them up under those two cords on the back side, it's not going to look right on the front. It's going to cause it to distort. So that's why I'm doing that now. Flip it back over, and now we're going to take the red and the black that's on the side closest to me and run them up under the two pieces on this side. So let's get this out of the way. Yeah, I think I'm going to do this black one first. You always bend that buckle out of the way if you need to. But I think I can get this up under there. You see that? Pull it through, making sure it's not twisted. Kind of flatten it back out. Pull it, get it out of the way. Now, the last piece, that red piece, this is the one that was really, really long when we finished. The other one was the shorter one. This is the one that is long. We're going to do it the same way. Run it up under those same two black pieces we just did. See that? Get it up under there. Run it through. Flatten it back out. Now I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to look at it again. You can see how it doesn't look distorted. Either side doesn't look all indented. Dented in on the sides because of the way I've done that. If you've done enough of these, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, it happens. You try to run them all up under the same cord, it's going to distort the front side of the bracelet sometimes, especially on this weave, it will. Okay, now, we've got all those through there. We're going to get those out of the way. Now we're going to deal with this. We're going to undo this. And this one right here, this one is it's pretty much the same thing we did. We're going to take, what do I do with it? My knotter's tool. That piece of gray, I'm going to get up under it and pull it back through the buckle, the slot in the buckle. Get me enough to get a hold of. And again, I had to flatten the end of this out, so I'm going to have to reshape it. So what I'm going to do, go ahead and take me one of these feds off here. I'll use one of these. Now I'll reshape this just like I did the other one, because like I say, I flattened it out so I could get it to go through that buckle. So it's real flat, this little rod, and I can't get the fed on there. So I'm gonna reshape it. Just like before, get it hot. It's the way I do it. Get it hot, give it a second, now reach up here and just slide your fingers down. Don't put a lot of pressure on it, because, oh yeah, I felt that. And all it does is taper that end down. I may have to do this again. I don't think it got it just right. See, it's still a little flat and it's still a little wide. We'll see. You see where I got it on my fingers? Let me see if I can get that on there. I don't think that's going to go on there. No, I'm going to have to redo that. Let me do this one more time. Give it a second. Yeah, I think that might do it right there. Doesn't have to be pretty, doesn't have to be the best. All we're going to do is put the fit on there and poke it through the bracelet, and that's it. And back weave it. So it doesn't have to be, you know, it's not like we're going to be weaving the whole bracelet. Get the lighter out of the way. Get it all. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, it's going to go on there. Just enough to get down there a little snug. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, if you see, when I did this core setup, that part, that piece of black right there that's going across, that is the initial cow hitch where I started the black cord. I attached it to the bottom because I started weaving up here, right? So I started my 6-strand cord right there with that cow hitch. And that was the very 2 center cord strands running up, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend that gray back, and I'm going to go right through those 2 cord strands. I'm going to come out the back side, basically where everything else came out. And it's going to disappear. Instead of having that gray be seen on this side of that cow hitch, it's going to disappear through the back side of the bracelet underneath that cow hitch. Hopefully. I say hopefully. See? Just right through there. Yeah, that's a tight one. Pull it through. Now, if I do this right, it should disappear and we won't see it at all. Boop. We see that? There's a little bit of a, if you look, you can see there's a little bit of, it'll close it. See, you can see a little bit of a gap right in there. You see the white through there? But it'll close itself up. You kind of push it, mash it a little bit. It'll close up, no problem. But now the gray disappears, and it does. You don't see it going past the cow hitch into through the slot and the buckle. That's just me personally. I don't like that. I want it to disappear, so you don't see it. Right now, we've got it on the back side. What do we do on the back side? We've got to back weave it. Now, this is a judgment call. Which side do we want to put it on? Over on this side or over on this side? Honestly, I would kind of feel of it, see which one. This one over here. Why? Because when I ran those, when I back weaved these 2 cords, that seemed like that was a little looser. It wasn't as hard to get that fid through there, so that tells me that that was a little looser, and I can probably get it through there, and that would be less chance of it distorting the front side of the bracelet. So we're just going to run this one through here. I put it in same, excuse me, I put it in the same 2 pieces. I'm going to push it through. Alright, now, get up there and make sure it's not, make sure it's not twisted. And just pull it through. Now we got everything through there. I'm going to flip it over there. I'm going to flip it over and look at the front to see if it distorted it at all. A little bit. If you just kind of look at it, you can see how it looks funky right there now. You see? It's just kind of got a little dip or whatever. It's not real bad. You can kind of flatten it back out. See, now you don't see it as much. I can see it because I know what's going on there. I know what I did on the back side, therefore I know what to look for on the front side. But there you go. Okay, now what we'll do now is, this is what I'm going to do. I mean, that's basically it. Here, I'll zoom out. That's basically it. Because, like I said, I'm not going to do the final cut and burn on any of this. I just wanted to show you how it's going to bike with it. But what I'm going to do, I will do this for you. You know, normally I do the bracelet, cut and burn, let it cool off, final and all that, and then I do the trial by fire where I see if it fits. How about this? How about I do that and see if it fits? Which I'm pretty sure it's going to, because I measured my jig out, I got all my notes. Followed my recipe card. I made a video about that the other day. The recipe card is in the tips and trick playlist. Alright, we're going to go ahead and give it a bend around. We're going to see. Oh yeah, that's a good fit. Not too tight, not too loose. And I'll have to cut all that off. But I can get just the tip of my finger up under there. That's the way I like it. Look at that, that's a pretty good fit right there. But that's it. I'll give you another look at it. But that is what's known as a fishtail belly, or a belly fishtail. And I simply call it a fish belly with a Cobra Inlay. Like I said, I'm going to come back and do this stitching on the side, but that's going to be in another video. But with that, I appreciate you watching. Hopefully you were able to follow my instructions and you could get yourself one made. If you want to see how I do the side stitching, check out the next video, and I'll end this one like I end them all. Keep it neat, keep it clean, and keep it tight. Happy weaving, folks.